In this lesson, we're going to talk about the uses of different materials that are available on the market today for landscape projects that are CAD friendly. And this will help you with time and energy when you're actually putting your projects together. So one of the things I recommend is some of the major landscape product groups have full cataloging online. I'm just going to go into the Unilock website, and here we have different products that are available. If you go to the home page, there's a section that's called Resources, and if you go into Resources, you can look at different types of products, cross sections of products. There's catalogs, documentation. So you really need to become familiar with this. And I know it's a bit laborious, but you need to go through and see what products that are available. So let's say you select a whole bunch of products, and then you want to actually include them in your drawing, which is an eventuality. Those are part of the different exercises we're going to be doing later on. So for instance, I've picked the retaining wall, and in the retaining wall there's a cross section that I can select. So when I go into Resources, there's one in here that says cross sections and details, and I can go in here, and then under cross sections I can search for the different wall products that are available to us. And in this search of wall sections here, I've got one that I've already picked. I know the height that I want to have is just a section that will have a horizontal or a traffic load to one side. It's not a sloped retaining wall. It's just, or I should say, slope grade behind the retaining wall. It's just a flat grade behind the retaining wall. And ours isn't that high. It's less than 4 feet, and that's why I've selected that. But they actually have CAD drawings. So if I click on the CAD option there, and I'll open it up in CAD. The nice thing about having a CAD drawing is a lot of the information is already given to us, and so it's a copy and paste type of scenario. Some of the information here is useful for you to know and understand. I'm just going to expand this to full screen here, only because it refers to what you're going to be doing with the material itself. And some of the terminology you should know about. For instance, in your maximum slope, it's horizontal. We have a horizontal slope here. It's going to be pushed against it, and you'll notice that the earth isn't at an angle because that adds more weight to the side of this. It talks about it requiring a geogrid length, and you have to read up about what the geogrid fabric is and how it helps to stabilize the retaining wall. And here it says the length of the grid itself. The maximum height of this particular wall is 36 inches. Well, we only need 24, and that is the height above grade. So below grade, it can go further down because you have grade on, or you have soil on conditions on either side, so it's got nowhere to go. But above grade, that's where we can actually push the wall out. So that's what it's referring to there. And the traffic surcharge in this particular case refers to the fact that we can actually have motorized traffic above it. But I'll talk about the critical slope at a later date and how close the traffic can actually come to a retaining wall of this nature. So if I go into model space, there's the drawing that's provided by the manufacturer. So a lot of this stuff is very generic, but this portion of the drawing is something that you can use rather than redraw it. So you'll notice a lot of these manufacturers, what they do is they have a whole bunch of their own different layers. We don't want any of that. So we open up the drawing, and then we select what we want out of this particular project. So for instance, I may want this. I don't want the notes, but I want this, and I can copy and move that over so I can see exactly what I'm keeping. I don't want this arrow here, but I do want the grid itself, or the geotextile grid, so I'm going to copy that over, and I'll pick a base point and destination. Right there I have it. This is what I want to keep. Now, before I copy and paste it into my project, I'll select it all and make sure it all exists on layer 0. That's important. So when I paste it into my project, it's pasted into layer 0, and then I can move it to the layer I want. If I copy everything, I can copy all these different layers along with it. And so if I've got 10 products and each product has 10 layers, I've now copied over 100 layers into my project, which I don't need and I don't want to do. So that's one example, for instance, that when you're picking your products or doing your research, you want to do your research on products that are friendly, are CAD friendly. You don't want to have to redraw things. Now, some of the products are available in PDF format, so the redraw is not that critical. I mean, you've done traceovers before. So you can bring in the PDF, scale it to size, and then trace over it. Or just read the information and see the drawing and redraw it. But it's more work, and we're trying to avoid that. There's also, for instance, pavers, which is something you're going to be selecting. Now, these are typically shown in zip files, which you would have to open up. And once you've identified that zip file, I'm just going to move it over here. We don't need the PDF, we need the DWG. Now, you may want to copy the PDF just for your own purposes so that you have a file of it, but essentially you don't need it. I'm going to continue opening up. I'm going to ignore any of the sort of warnings that they have there. Now, for whatever reason, Unilock uses this system. I think they use a black background and they're drawing everything in white. So I just put a window around everything, and I'm going to change the color here to by layer, and that should change everything to black on white. And again, this is all CAD. So nice thing about this, I can copy and paste this into my drawing. Once again, I don't want to take the text, and this is why you'd copy the PDF file, because then you can print it off and read the text and label it accordingly. What I want to do is copy all of that information. So I'm just going to move it over to make sure I only copy what I need and I don't take what I don't need. So there's a bunch of arrowheads I don't need here, so I'm going to take those and get rid of them. There may be some, in this particular case, whoever did the drawing may, no, it's just to show that there's a chamfer in the stone. So all of this information I can keep. Let me get rid of some of this, because we don't label it the way they label it here. We label it on the actual paper space. We don't label it in model space. So some of this stuff I'm going to remove here, take the time to edit. I don't have time right here in this presentation. And then I want to make sure all of this remaining information is in layer 0. If it's not, in this case I have a couple things that are not, and it shows layer 1, I'm going to move it all to layer 0. And then this becomes the item that I'm going to copy and paste into my drawing. And then I can add my own dimensions to the drawing and my own labels based on the PDF file. So selecting products that are CAD friendly will save you time in the future. And when you're looking at all the different items that we're going to be including in our project, there are gates and fences and posts and all sorts of things that are available. I'm going to bring up one here. Let me minimize this. I've got another item here that I found a different application for, or I found in a different location. It's not a uniblock fence, so it's a different product here. But that again allows me to take this, and this is showing me the elevations and the variations. I don't want any of the text information, so once again I can delete all that information. I don't need any of that. I'll use my own dimensioning values, but the PDF I'll keep so that I know how to dimension this. And there's my fence. Why copy it over when I can use it as is? And this allows me to select the fencing material, put it in the layer I want when I move it over to where it's going to, and it's part of my drawing. So using and finding products in your research stages right now that are CAD friendly are going to save you a tremendous amount of time in the long run. So don't rush through this. This is the time you'll have to explore. Later on, when you're trying to put these projects together, you don't have time to explore all these different options. So now's the time in the beginning of all this that you can actually explore all this work, make sure you're using the user-friendly type of products, and then it'll make your life a lot simpler later on. All right, thank you for watching this video on using CAD-friendly products. Explore, and this as a individual that's involved in design and construction and all that is a time saver, and time is money, and we always want to be as efficient as we can in all of our projects.